This suburban police officer arrested by ICE for allegedly overstaying his visa is back on duty.
Okay, get ready for this one. Now, some of you might remember this story because it was kind of a big deal. Back in October, a man was arrested for overstaying his visa by ICE. Now, that man was also working for the Hanover Park Police Department, which is just outside of Chicago. Well, it's being reported that he's back on the job. And not only is he back on the job, he's also getting a lot of back pay. And yes, we do have the official statement from the Hanover Park Police Department. Now, before we dig into this and this entire story, make sure to please like the video. It's the #1 way you guys are helping this channel, and it also helps others see the videos as well. And I think people want to see what the heck is going on with this story, because I thought he was an illegal immigrant, and how is he now working for the police department? We'll cover all of this. So let's first get the context. Before we talk about how he's even still working for the police department, this is what happened back in October.
Tonight would have been Officer Radul Bajovic's swearing-in ceremony as a Hanover Park police officer. But he's now in the custody of federal agents after the Department of Homeland Security said he overstayed his tourist visa, which allegedly expired in 2015. DHS says Officer Bajovic was encountered during a targeted enforcement action, part of Operation Midway Blitz. The news dividing residents at tonight's village board meeting.
I can't imagine that someone who was trying to enforce the laws was one of the bad guys.
Other residents telling ABC7 off camera, based off of information provided by DHS, they have serious concerns over how Bajovic was employed by the police department. Today, DHS released a statement saying, in part, Radul Bajovic violated our nation's laws and was living illegally in the United States for 10 years.
Okay, so I'm gonna do my best to try and explain what's going on here. So first things first, I know everybody has this question, is he an American citizen or not? Well, it turns out he's not an American citizen. It turns out Radul did come into the country legally with his initial visa. However, Homeland Security's claim that he overstayed that visa, that turns out to be true. So how is he still in the country? How is he working for the police department? We have a non-American citizen who overstayed his visa. I thought you get deported for that. Well, here's what happened.
We previously reported that village records showed he had a work authorization card issued by Homeland Security and that he passed an FBI and other background checks.
So it turns out he has a work permit. This is a statement from the Hanover Park Police Department. At the time of his detention, the Hanover Park Police Department stated that it hired Officer Bajovic in January 2025 in full compliance with federal and state law. Before hiring Officer Bajovic, the village confirmed that he was legally authorized by the federal government to work in the United States. At the time of his hire, Officer Bajovic presented the village with a work authorization card, which was issued by the federal government, U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. Further, FBI and Illinois State Police background checks revealed no criminal history. Now, for those of you asking, well, how did he overstay his visa and he still was able to get the work permit? I have no idea. We don't have those details. We just know it happened. And I also want to point out, I don't know if anyone knows how it happens, because even when you look at this police report or the police statement, they are using super vague terminology. Well, the federal government allowed us for the authorization to hire him, and the FBI background check also says it's okay. But also, when I did a ton of research on this topic, I can't find a single article or anywhere that says how he was able to overstay the initial visa and then get the work visa. So I'm here to tell you, I cannot find that information. Now, this is as far as I'm willing to go. I don't want to over speculate on this story because I think the story speaks for itself. We have a non-American citizen working for a police department with working papers. I mean, that alone is already a big story. But what we do know is that there are times where you don't automatically get deported if you overstay a visa. And during that period, you might have the time to either apply for a green card or apply for other services in which you can't be deported. I mean, we see that all the time today. So that's as far as I'm willing to go for the speculation, but I know everyone still has this one question. Can he still be deported? And the answer is yeah, absolutely he can be deported. Just because you have working papers doesn't mean you can't be deported. Okay, but wait, how is he still working for the police department? If he can still be deported, he was already arrested by ICE. What is going on here?
He's a native of Montenegro. An immigration judge released Bajovic on $2,500 bond 2 weeks after his arrest.
He was released by a judge on bond. So to the police department, they're like, okay, he was already working for us. Why don't you just come back and work for us? So that's what's going on. The judge released him on bond. He was released and he was rehired and he got the back pay that he missed out on. And so that's what's going on. He was arrested, then he was released by a judge, the police department rehired him, and now we are just waiting to see what's going to happen next. It's basically going to be on ICE. Will ICE rearrest him? Are they going to reopen up a case? I have no idea, but if they do that, I will definitely report on it, so make sure to please subscribe to my channel so I can keep you up to date with this story. Now, speaking of a judge releasing non-American citizens, we are currently in the middle of a court battle to see whether or not a federal judge can release up to about 600 illegal immigrants.
Given just 20 minutes to make their case both for and against the release of hundreds of immigrants who are currently in ICE custody, the three-judge panel did not make its ruling today. It is a ruling that could be days or even months away.
Okay, now hold on. What the heck is going on with this case? How is a judge just able to release all of these illegal immigrants? Okay, once again, I'm gonna make this as simple as possible for you to understand. Basically, lawyers and the judge are arguing this right here. Castanon Nava versus DHS. Basically, Homeland Security agreed to a special clause in this portion of the country. Illinois falls under this special jurisdiction. And with this clause, Homeland Security has agreed to either have a judicial signed warrant or have probable cause that somebody can and should be deported if they are arrested by ICE. And here's why it gets extra confusing. Like I said before, this clause does not exist anywhere else in the United States for any other ICE agents, but it does apply to Illinois and like 5 other states. So the judge and lawyers are arguing there are illegal immigrants who did not meet those special qualifications. They are arguing there were no judicial warrants, there was no probable cause, thus we should be releasing these illegal immigrants.
2 nominated by President Biden, 1 by President Trump, listened but also seemed to provide an inkling of where they stand when it comes to the potential release of hundreds of immigrants from ICE custody.
We have a consent decree, we have the parties knowingly agreeing to it, and the district court is merely enforcing the terms.
So everything I just explained to you, this is what the judge is saying. As a judge, I am just simply trying to follow what Homeland Security agreed to. So this is what they are arguing.
To it. And the district court is merely enforcing the terms.
He just determined that they were a potential member of the class and released them. And then he gave them a 24-hour reprieve, which I have no idea where that comes from in federal law. Do you?
Today's hearing took place after the 7th Circuit put the brakes on a lower court decision ordering the release on bond of hundreds of immigrants detained in the Chicago area between June 11th and October the 7th.
Yeah, so that's a very crucial part of the story, because a judge was just going to go ahead and release everyone, but it got halted by a higher court. Now, I think I did cover that news story because a lot of people were shocked this was even happening, but a higher court was like, okay, hold on. You're about to release all of these illegal immigrants who didn't willingly get arrested by ICE. ICE had to go out and find them, so that got halted. But now we're waiting to see if it's going to get unhalted.
Judge Jeffrey Cummings last month finding that the federal government violated a consent decree that forbids immigration authorities from conducting warrantless arrests.
Again, this is not a problem anywhere else in the United States, but of course it is a problem in Illinois.
Without sufficient probable cause. The government's position, at least in part, is that the consent decree was extended without basis, and those in custody should not be released. Today's hearing centered on the parties' interpretation of the statutes.
We obviously think that the district court had ample authority to do what it did.
According to the initial court order, up to 614 people might qualify for release. but in reality that number is a lot closer to 440. This
600 to 440. You guys can leave your comments down below how you feel about this number. I do think this story needs to be way bigger because, again, we're talking about a special clause in a small portion of the country that might potentially be able to release all of these illegal immigrants who still qualify to be deported, by the way.
is after the government determined that at least 75 have already been deported, 33
My point exactly.
released, and 57 determined to be a safety risk and not subject to release. Those numbers, however, are from last month when the stay to Judge Cummings' initial order came down. In court today, government attorneys admitting they don't have updated figures.
This is the whole reason we sought the interim relief, is they are rapidly forcing people to take either voluntary departure or removal so that there's no one left when we get to the remedies.
Now, attorneys for the plaintiffs did say after court today that attorneys for the government have given them a preliminary list of some 1,200 additional immigrants who were arrested after October the 7th who could eventually qualify for this release on bond.
And all they have to do is prove there was no judicial warrant, and then they have to prove, well, there was not enough probable cause. And obviously that part's going to be a little more difficult, but the judicial warrant, that one can be a little easier for these lawyers and for judges to approve the release of illegal immigrants. And again, I really want to nail this down. These are illegal immigrants, by the way, and these are people who have been targeted or selected by Homeland Security to be involved with some sort of investigation because they have gone off as a red flag of being an illegal immigrant. You don't just get arrested by ICE, you have to fall under a certain category to qualify for your arrest. Now, a lot of these illegal immigrants, they were arrested under Operation Midway Blitz. And what is going on with Operation Midway Blitz? We haven't heard too much about it. Where is Chief Bovino? Where's Tom Homan? We haven't seen too much action coming out of Chicago. Well, don't worry, because it looks like in 2026, it's going to amplify.
West Suburban Congresswoman Lauren Underwood says Operation Midway Blitz is not over. Underwood visited the Broadview ICE facility on Monday. And during an interview on WGN Radio, she said ICE officials told her they're planning to at least triple their staff by January. They're also preparing to add more office space. And she suggests ICE could be preparing for a new surge in arrests. Underwood characterizes the Trump administration's promise to round up the worst of the worst as a lie. She says less than 3% of those detained during Operation Midway Blitz had any criminal history.
Now, while we're here, let's stick with the theme of not going to prison.
This morning, a woman who drove through a crowd of protesters in the Loop is getting probation. The incident happened in June. You can see the car there weaving through the protest. Court records show Deirdre Kemp pleaded guilty to aggravated reckless driving causing bodily harm. Prosecutors say a police sergeant tried to stop her by grabbing the wheel, but Kemp swerved and hit a woman who broke her arm.
Yep. Give her probation. You heard that correctly. This happened a while ago. This was like the very first anti-Trump protest. There were like thousands upon thousands of people in Chicago, and everyone was freaking out. I even covered this story, and I was like, what is going on here? Somebody is just rapidly driving through everyone, and this is just a small snippet. It actually was a lot worse than this, and they are getting probation, so there you go. Now, I want to get back to Operation Midway Blitz. So this is Patrick. If you guys are unaware, Patrick, to my knowledge, is still running as a member of Congress in his area. According to Patrick, he is saying that Operation Midway Blitz was a complete failure.
Snow fell in the Chicagoland area and ICE fled south for the winter. Operation Midway Blitz was a failure that lasted about 65 days, launched in early September and ended November 12th. Its stated purpose was to reduce gang violence and crime in the Chicagoland area. That was the propaganda that surrounded this entire thing. What we now know after some 3,300 individuals, moms, uncles, dads, workers, nannies, were abducted and kidnapped from their homes and job sites, is that probably 2.5% may have a criminal record. Of the 614 individuals where we do have information because of a lawsuit, by the way, because federal agents broke the law and how they
That's the one we're talking about, by the way.
Were detained, only 16 had any criminal record, none for murder or for rape. Turns out Operation Midway Blitz was a giant and entirely performative action from an administration that is more interested in scaring people and in sending troops.
Okay, now, according to Patrick, this all qualified as a complete failure. Now, I'm glad Patrick did at least concede that there were some people with very, very heinous crimes, but he did not list them. You guys can go to the ICE catalog or Homeland Security, where you can see who has been arrested every single day. So, to Patrick, according to him, because not enough of the worst criminals were arrested in Chicago, that means it was a complete failure. That's what I'm getting from his statements. But to others, some would say Operation Midway Blitz has been a complete success, and this seems to be an ongoing mission. I'm not getting any indicators that Homeland Security is just going to stop operating in Chicago because there's some snow. And just to give credit where credit is due, this is Patrick's TikTok if you guys want to go support him and follow him. I don't align with him politically, but I do always try to give credit where credit is due if I am going to react or comment on people's content. So this is Patrick's account. Okay, so I hope you guys enjoyed the video. And by the way, if you also want to support this channel, you can become a member. I made it as cheap as possible. YouTube will not let me go any lower in price. Just scan the QR code and you can become a member that way. Thank you guys so much for everything. God bless, and we'll see you all later. Please pray for peace. We do need that right now.